bring us out things. Says Thakur has suggested how one can conquer lusty desires for sense category. One cannot give up thinking of women, but thinking in this way is natural. Even while walking on street, one will see so many women. However, one is determined not to live with a woman. Even while seeing a woman, he will not become lusty. ठीक है? If one is determined not to have sex, he can automatically conquer lusty desire. Prabhupada says the example is given in this regard is that even if one is hungry, if on a particular day he is determined to observe fasting, he can naturally conquer the disturbances of hunger and thirst. आज तो सोच के रखा है कि फास्टिंग करना ही कल हाँ कल आएगा ना फास्टिंग. So even though it's very hot or very painful or hungry or thirsty, but we are determined, so we will endure that suffering or pain. So similarly, if one is determined not to be envious, he can naturally conquer anger. So it's all about being determined, not being envious, not being fulfilling lusty desire, something like that. Prabhupada saying if one keeps a large amount of cash with him, he is always anxious about keeping it properly. So always anxious, कोई चुरा न ले, कोई देख तो नहीं रहा है, always like that. I told this once. My mother told generally we wear tulsi mala na. So in north they have a trend of having sona and tulsi mala. So one bead of gold and one bead of tulsi. One bead of gold and one bead of tulsi. They have a trend. Some Marwadi families rich, they have that trend. So when I was long time back, so my mother's mother, Nani, so she, I think some occasion was there or something like that. So then she gave me one chain which had one gold and one tulsi. And one tulsi. So I took from her, but then after coming to our place, I gave it to my mother. You only keep this. Because if I wear this, I roam around here and there without much tension. If I wear this, somebody will be behind me, seeing this. Which pastime comes, which pastime is there? Sanatana Goswami, when he is, coming to Vrindavan or Varanasi, so he is coming with his servant. His name was Ishan. So he is coming with his servant, and they don't take the normal path. They come through the, some inner path, and at one point there is a huge forest and hills to cross. So they take shelter of one premises, and the owner of that place, they said, please help us cross across. And he's being very nice to Sanatana Goswami. Yes, we'll help you, this, that, we'll definitely take. Sanatana Goswami is thinking, he's being too overly nice to a stranger. So then he asked Ishan, are you carrying something? So he says, I am carrying 7 gold coins. So then Sanatana Goswami says, okay, I think you are carrying our death. So he brings that 7 gold coins and gives to that person. He says, take this. So he says, Arey, how you come and give? I had just planned in few minutes. My astrologer had told that you are carrying 8 gold coins. And I would have just killed you for that. So he said, but I am so happy with your gesture. You keep the gold coins and I help you cross across. Sanatana Goswami said, no, you keep. This is death. If I carry, somebody else will come after me for those gold coins. You keep and you just help us come across. So then he helps, and then afterwards, Sanatana Goswami asked Ishan, are you carrying something more? So he said, yes, I am carrying 1 more gold coin. So then Sanatana Goswami says, you take this gold coin and you go. Your way, I will go my way. So it's like death. If we understand the consequences of because people, it attracts attention of people. More you have wealth, gold, it attracts unnecessary, for no reason we will get into trouble. So better is have simple thing. Text number 23. Anvikshikya shokamoho dambham mahadupashaya yoga antarayan monena himsam kamadyanimaya.
By discussing spiritual knowledge, one can conquer lamentation, illusion. By serving again devotee, one can become righteous. By keeping silent, one can avoid obstacles on the path of mystic yoga. And simply by stopping self-gratification, one can conquer envy.
Anvikshikya shoka moha. So one can give up shoka and moha, lamentation and illusion, by deliberation upon material and spiritual subject matter. Because shoka and moha is generally born out of seeing something which is temporary to be eternal and not focusing on eternal. So if one keeps on discussing spiritual subject matter, then it will keep us reminding us actually what is of value, what is our guiding light, what is our pole star. So then one will not be affected by lamentation and illusion. So that is their Prabhupada is putting Jatasya Nidrupor Mrityu Rom Janma Mritasya. So Vishnacharya Thakur says Anvikshya means considering what is Atma and not non-Atma. That is Anvikshya. One can give up Shoka and Moha. Dambam means false pride. Dambam Mahat Upasaya. How can one give a false pride? By serving a great devotee. Mahat Upasaya. So we are very proud that I have this thing, that thing, but by serving Vaishnavas we get humbled. And so that is the way to become free of pride. And yoga antarayan, by obstacles on path of yoga, by silence. Therefore, like I know one, I was telling her that we have one follower of art of living. So that will be almost every month or something, one day you will observe more, not speak to anyone. Especially in Patanjali and other yoga aspects, they emphasize on more silence to avoid or to overcome obstacles on path of mystic yoga. Himsam kamadi animaya. Simply by stopping sense gratification, one can conquer envy. Kamadi animaya. So envy can be conquered. We had a question yesterday how to conquer envy. So it can be conquered by kama adi, by giving up this thing, by giving up sense gratification. How envy can be given up, can be stopped by giving up sense gratification, conquered? What is the relation? Envy and sense gratification. Anyone wants to enlighten us? Yes.
There is 6 reports.
No.
Everything starts from Kama. And from Kama, to the gradual process. So if one can conquer the Kama, or one can stop the Kama, then automatically the other 5, including the envy, mastery, will be stopped.
Okay. So for others also they could have said Kama only. For lust, Kama. For pride also they can say Kama. For Krodha also they can say Kama. Your answer is correct, but more elaboration. Why Kama for this? कौन कर?
Usually, when we stop sense gratification, it will decrease the greed, and from greed, envy comes.
Kama will lead to greed, greed will lead to envy. Okay. Anyone else? Kama to greed. Kama, Lobha. Yes, who is speaking?
Hare Krishna. So sense gratification is never stop. So when sense gratification will never stop, then it leads to growth because he is not satisfied. And when because when that person is not satisfied, and but when material object is not available, because material object is not available every time. Sometimes we engage with material object, but Lord provides not unlimitedly. So when not available that object, then we become envious. Then we kill others, or means mind will misdirected, gives us
Okay. Sense gratification will lead to envying others. Anything else? Yes. I have to improve then Sungit he raised half hand like
Actually, what is sense gratification? Sense gratification means I need this for me. I need this for me. I need this for me. Everything for me. So while we are self-satisfied, we do not enter after something which is not in my usual use or what is not in readily available. Then we are not envious of who has all these things. That is especially who is self-satisfied. That will become envious by seeing others.
okay. Self-satisfied and sense gratification leads to thinking of oneself is good. Same. Okay. Anyone else? Yes. Yeah, what does Krishna Chaitanya Prabhupada say?
Like when it is Hinsa, not Desha,
Yeah.
it is a direct violence, not exactly envy. So if we see this, means while we have the desire, like the non-devotee, as they have desire, that's why they kill the other animals. They do Hinsa. Even with other human beings also, sometimes we do Hinsa for only to satisfy our senses. So if we exactly go to the
Word Hinsa.
such as Hinsa, so then it is more connected.
Actually, all of you are saying correctly. Simply by stopping sense gratification, one can contact envy, because sense gratification makes one bodily conscious. One gets more and more rooted in bodily conception. And bodily conception means what? Aham, mameti principle, me and mine. So then one makes distinction between mera hai, uska hai. So then there is distinction, and that leads to if I don't get, others get, then we become envious. Because there is bodily conception stopping of my sense gratification. So therefore one will automatically become envious of others. So like that. So therefore we should understand that root is desire to enjoy. So if we can overcome that desire to enjoy, then we can happily serve. Like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu witnesses the whole pastime of Rath Yatra, witnesses and dances and whole thing, at the end, when there is return Rath Yatra, So again, the return yatra happens and then Lord is taken, tied with ropes by the aspect to carry Jagannath Baldev Subhadra to the temple, and then they keep these cotton pads. Then the cotton pads they open up and the whole cotton fluffs up. So then some of these silken ropes, they use silken ropes to tie it around Jagannath, and then they use that to lift Jagannath. So then those ropes also break because Jagannath is very heavy. So then Mahaprabhu tells, he calls Kulyagram Vasis, Satyaraj Khan and Ramananda Vasu, and he gives them instruction that you see this rope and now your service is that you should get ropes made like this but much more stronger. So in the Purport Prabhupada says that Mahaprabhu knew that in Kulyagram they used to have this thing about silken ropes and things like that. So therefore he gave specific service to them. And as soon as they hear that we got this service, Satyaraj Khan and Ramananda Vasu, they mentioned words in Chaitanya Charitamrita. They become so happy that we have been given some personal service by Lord Chaitanya. In this world, when we are given service, generally we feel, why me? Why not him? Or her? Or this or that? Why me only? Why so much of blessing on me? Others need blessing also. Others should also get blessing. Why you want to keep blessing on me only? Do you want to spread blessing everywhere? So the point is, because we don't see that service opportunity is actually a great, like we discussed last time also, service should be our heart. Our whole existence is that service. So then because that mood of I am the servant. Servant means what? Service. But if I think I am the master, then I feel why I have to serve. Why not others? So that self gratification actually feeling leads to envy. But if we have a proper understanding that my existence is not for self gratification, then we will not be envious or of others. That principle is there. Text number 24. Kripaya bhutajam dukkham devam jaya samadhina atmajam yoga vidyena nidram sattva nisevaya.
By good behavior and freedom from envy, one should counteract sufferings due to other living entities. By meditation in trance, one should counteract sufferings due to problems. And by practicing Hatha yoga, pranayama and so forth, one should counteract sufferings due to the body and mind. Similarly, by developing the mode of goodness, especially in regard to eating, one should control sleep.
So how one can conquer suffering from others? By being merciful to them. By good behavior and freedom from envy, one should counteract suffering due to other living entities. So natural in this whole thing process, any living entity is, the whole thing is survival of fittest principle. Everyone is trying to survive, so we will get suffering due to other living entities. It can be some mosquito, it can be some whatever, and some other humans also. But by good behavior and freedom from envy, one should counteract the suffering. One will not get pain, suffer. One may get pain, but will not suffer due to other living entities. And then how? By meditation and trance, one should counteract suffering due to providence. By focusing on the goal, Krishna, then we can, whatever comes by providence, we accept, or we can go beyond that suffering. Practicing Hatha Yoga Pranayama, one should counteract suffering due to body and mind. Body is giving, so therefore we tell that we should do some yoga, exercise, some pranayama, breathing exercise, so that the mind can be peaceful, body can be healthy, and things like that. Similarly, by developing mode of goodness, especially in regard to eating, one should conquer sleep. Nidram sattva nishevaya. So if one wants to conquer sleep, then one should practice a lifestyle which is more based on mode of goodness. Okay. Prabhupada says comparing one's own suffering to suffering of others. Therefore, one should be kind to all living entities. If I feel pain by this, others will also feel the pain. That episode of Draupadi telling to leave Ashwatthama, I am as a mother suffering, why you want Kripi to also suffer? Ashwatthama is killed. So one cannot avoid the suffering inflicted by providence, and therefore when suffering comes, one should fully absorb oneself in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. So this we can describe it in bold letters. Suffering will come by providence, or so one has to. There is no option but just to absorb ourselves in chanting the names. One can avoid suffering from body and mind by practicing mystic Hatha Yoga. Okay. Next, Rajas Tamascha Sattvena Sattvam Chopashamena Cha Etat Sarvam Guru Bhaktya Purusho Hi Anjasajay.
One must control the moods of pressure and ignorance by developing the mood of goodness. And then one must become detached from the mood of goodness by promoting oneself to the platform of Shuddha Sattva. All this can be automatically done if one engages in the service of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. In this way, one can conquer the influence of the moods of nature.
So Rajas Tamas should be conquered by developing Sattva, and Sattva by Shuddha Sattva. So we have to come or overcome these obstacles or lower nature by higher nature. And then the last line, Etat Sarvam Guru Bhaktya Purusho Hi Anjasajayet. Everything can be conquered if one is does Guru Bhakti. Etat Sarvam Guru Bhaktya Purusho Hi Anjasajayet. We can conquer Jay Anjasa easily. Everything if we have Guru Bhaktya. Prabhupada says just by treating the root cause of an ailment, one can conquer all bodily pains and suffering. Similarly, one is devoted and faithful to spiritual master, he can conquer the influence of Sattva, Rajoguna and Tamo very easily. Further down, Prabhupada says, if a spiritual master is favorably inclined, one naturally sees the mercy of Supreme Lord. And by the mercy of Supreme Lord, one immediately becomes transcendental, conquering all the influences of Sattva, Rajoguna and Tamo. Sagunan Sankrityatman, Mudvija, Kulpati. So this we can practically see also. Like for those who are disciples of Prabhupada, just by following the instructions of Prabhupada, they could overcome all these aspects. They did not know what is Sattva, Rajagun, what lifestyle, this and that. But just by sincerely, Guru Bhaktya, they were so steadfast in their determination to serve Srila Prabhupada, and that made them overcome all obstacles. So one should be so surrendered to spiritual master's instruction. So the question may come, What is spiritual master's instruction? What is spiritual master's instruction? Yes, plus mine. Right.
Surrender to the Lord.
What is the instruction of spiritual master? Anyone else? What is the instruction of spiritual master? What is the instruction of spiritual master to you? Surrender to Lord. It's a very generic instruction.
For regulative principle,
For regulative principles, 16 rounds.
16 round and helping in the mission of Sri Prabhupada teaching.
Anyone else? What is the instruction of spiritual master? Practicing Krishna Bhakti. See, where there is love and surrender, so we may hear a lot of things from spiritual master, but unless there is real love and desire to please the spiritual master, those it will not be actually understood what is the instruction of spiritual master. So when there is love and surrender, sincere desire to please spiritual master, then same words you will hear, but then you will understand what is his desire, what is his instruction for me. So, yeah, in general, the most important instruction is that we should chant 16 rounds and follow 4 regulations, and that's there. But what should be the mood in which one should chant 16 rounds? What should the mood in which one should perform devotional service? So that is also there in the instruction of Spirit. But we may miss it if we are not sincere in our desire to serve and please the spiritual master. If we are sincere in our desire, then we will hear the same words and it will give much deeper level of understanding of what is his desire. So Prabhupada had so many disciples, 10,000 disciples. And Prabhupada spent some time with few disciples, but after a few years, Prabhupada was very busy going traveling from different, and he would be spending most of his time with big leaders only. So some were not getting much physical association or time of Prabhupada. Correct? Good. So where were you? What was I saying? So yeah, I was telling about how Prabhupada's disciples, so some, like we hear Niranjan Swami Maharaj. So Niranjan Swami Maharaj never met Prabhupada physically, not even once. He got Diksha on letter in letter. He received in mail in the letter. Earlier, not email, but mail, letter. So, but if you see the kind of dedication, service he has, and he's continuing with so much zeal, and despite seeing so many ups and downs after Prabhupada left, but he's still continuing with so much eagerness and things like that. So that is because if one has sincere desire to please and serve the Guru, then the instructions will actually enter the heart. Not to criticize anyone, but just for learning sake. There were some devotees who were with Prabhupada closely, but they had more attraction for Prabhupada's vapu. But after Prabhupada left, they could not continue in physical service. So what's the difference? Somebody could continue despite not meeting Prabhupada for next 50 years, and somebody could not continue. So then one should have a sincere desire to please and serve spiritual master. Then the instructions will actually penetrate the heart, and one can make that, this Guru Bhakya, everything will be taken care of. So that will be good. Yasya sakshat bhagavati,
यस्य साक्षात् भगवति
ज्ञानदीपा प्रदे गुरु भक्त्या सद्धि श्रुतं तस्य सर्वं कुञ्जरशौचवत्। चार्जिंग है तो उसमें इशू आता है क्या? चार्जिंग पे लगाता है तो ठीक हो जाता है। लास्ट टाइम पे आपने चार्जिंग पे लगाया था, चार्जिंग पे
मेरे निकल भी आ गया।
टोटल चार्जिंग पे लगाते हैं तो ठीक आता है। हरे कृष्ण लेट्स सी, ठीक है। तो यस्य साक्षात भगवती, one should consider Guru as साक्षात भगवती, as good as supreme Lord. Jnana Deepa Prade Guru, and he can give transcendental knowledge for enlightenment. Jnana Deepa Prade. Martyasa Dhi Shrutam Tasya. So if one thinks him to be Martyasa, some like an ordinary person, then it is like Sarvam Kunjana Shauchavat. It is like elephant bath. So elephant is taking bath, but again putting mud. So one is an association of Guru, but he thinks he is an ordinary person, he is like a normal human being, then it's like being in association but not being in association. He is getting purified, but he is again putting dust on him by thinking that Guru is an ordinary person. So Prabhupada is quoting Sakshat Haritvena Samasta Shastre Acharya Mam Janiya. And then Kunjala Shochavat, Prabhupada is explaining, there is no meaning to elephant bath. So one may argue by saying that since the spiritual master relatives and men of his neighborhood consider him an ordinary human being, what is the fault on part of disciple who considers the spiritual master an ordinary human being? This will be answered in next verse, but the injunction is that the spiritual master should never be considered an ordinary man. One should strictly adhere to the instructions of the spiritual master, for if he is pleased, certainly the Supreme Personality God is pleased. Yasya prasada bhagat prasada. Eshave Bhagavan Sakshat
ईश्वरे भगवान् साक्षात्
Pradhana Purusheshvara
quality of Godhead, Lord Krishna is the master of all other living entities and of the material nature. His lotus feet are sought and worshipped by great saintly persons like Vyasa. Nonetheless, there are fools who consider Lord Krishna an ordinary human being.
So here mentioned that how Lord Krishna is the master of all living entities and lotus is sought and worship a great saintly person. Eshave Bhagavan Sakshat Pradhana Purusheshwara. He is Purusheshwara. Yogeshware Vimidyagare Lokoyam Munyate Nara. But people consider him fools who consider him as Naram, Munyate Nara. So Prabhupada is saying the spiritual master is called Sevak Bhagavan, the servitor personality of God, and Krishna is called Sevya Bhagavan. So two terms Prabhupada is saying, Sevak Bhagavan and Sevya Bhagavan. The spiritual master is the worshipper of God, whereas the supreme personality of Godhead is the worshipper God and worshipable God. This is the difference between spiritual master and supreme personality. Sometimes we tell for Balramji also, no? He is also Lord, but he is Sevak, he is serving, Lord is serving. So then Prabhupada is explaining about Jnana Deepa Pradeya and how the spiritual, on absolute platform, there is no difference between spiritual master and supreme Lord. If someone considers supreme personality of God and Krishna or Ram to be an ordinary, then it is an offense. Similarly, family members of spiritual master who is bona fide representative of Lord consider the spiritual master an ordinary human being. This does not mean that he becomes an ordinary human being. The spiritual master is as good as supreme personality of God, and therefore one who is very serious about spiritual advancement must regard spiritual master in this way. Even a slight deviation from this understanding can create disaster in disciples, Vedic studies and austerity. एक न्याय रहता है ना, उसको बोलते हैं ना, child is naked, उसको क्या बोलते हैं? What is that? So the mother is, when she is child, she is naked, and then so if you consider her the same, something similar thing can apply here, where for the relatives they may see the person as ordinary or simple, but Prabhupada is again stressing in these two purports that for a disciple he should not look from that point, that he is an ordinary human being, is actually transcendently elevated. So 28, all the labor one does will become useless is mentioned. Read the translation.
Ritualistic ceremonies, liberative principles, austerities, and the practice of yoga are all needed to control the senses and mind. But even after one is able to control the senses and mind, if he does not come to the point of meditation upon the Supreme God, all such activities are simply labor in frustration.
So one may control the senses and mind, but if it does not bring us to the point of meditation, all such is useless. That verse is there, no? Aradhito yadi hari tapasya Prabhupada is also quoting another verse. Jnana avasthita sadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yogina. A person in meditation achieves the perfection of yoga practice when he can see Supreme Personality of God. By various practices, one may come to the point of controlling the senses, but simply controlling the senses does not bring one to a substantial conclusion. However, staunch faith in the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of God, one not only controls the senses, but also realizes the Supreme God. So that was the beauty of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. They were not having any of these other attributes of being very sense controlled or very good in ritualistic ceremonies, reputable spells, but they had full faith on whatever Prabhupada said. And just by that faith, they could staunch faith, they could control the senses and also realize the spirit. So one should understand that sometimes we may see somebody who may not be externally like very properly, or but in his heart he has strong faith, then he can still make a lot of progress. The point is, one who is doing it should not
My morals, very strict, very convinced. But my behavior, conduct, you would also should politely or as like as you. It should not be considered that okay, my behavior also should be making experience of feelings. Maybe I am not good at devotional service, but means I think that devotee should conduct it with this.
You're sweating a lot too. More fan air for you.
Sweating by hearing that thing. Should we consider, should we also speak that good behavior? Maybe we also maybe misbehave, we should consider this also good faith in this good.
There are two ways to look at it. As I mentioned already, when we are dealing with in an organization, you have to deal with him appropriately. That you have to tell if so that cannot be an
That
exception.
is not my side. Who has nice faith on, good faith on, proper faith on Guru.
Yeah.
But this also behavior also may be bad. That
Can be. See, one thing is, if one is a staunch follower of Guru, then he will try to understand what does Guru want. And Guru generally wants that all his disciples and everyone should stay together and help each other. So, if he's really strong, then you will understand that's the mood. Second point is, sometimes there may be strong impressions, where one has strong impressions from before of harsh dealings. So one may deal harshly, but in his heart he may be repenting and crying, oh, why I am doing like this. After dealing harshly, he may repent in his heart. So, and we may not see that repentance or that feeling or that prayer, oh, why I acted like this. So that is a sign that he wants to improve, or he understands that's not the right attitude.
Yes, and but that behavior also once time will gone.
Yeah, because of the power of repentance and Guru Bhakti, it's mentioned, all your lust, anger, greed, fear, and everything will go just by Guru Bhakti, mentioned in the previous verses. So, point I am making is that just by external appearance we don't understand. What is going on in one's heart, one only knows. So sincerity means, despite whatever obstacles or whatever shortfalls we have, we understand why I have this shortfall. Again, I am doing the same mistake. But he condemns or repents with it. So he may externally behave, but we don't know what the person is doing within his heart. So therefore, I am saying we should give. So as an organization, we may deal with that person, but then as devotees, we need to understand that what is going on in his heart, we don't know. So we have to give all due respect also. Any example where this is seen in Chaitanya Charitamrita? What happens when Gadar Pandit sees him, he's in like showing so extravagance and but then Vasudev Mukunda, so he sings that verse and he goes in ecstasy like that. Okay. So okay, fine. Anything else more direct? How devotees deal with Kara Krishna Das. So when Kara Krishna Das comes back with Mahaprabhu after South India tour, Mahaprabhu becomes, take this, your Vaishnava. He was supposed to help me, I had to help him. He ran away with some the Bhattaharis, women and things like that. But then so he was given punishment, but then they again, the devotees engaged him in service also. So they said, you go to Navadip and give information about Mahaprabhu, his arrival, and because you were with him, so you witnessed all the different activities, so you will be able to communicate to them also, and things like that. So, on an organizational level, we may have to deal with a situation because organization means there are certain externals matter. So you have to based on externals, you have to decide is qualified or not. But in a sangha of devotees, we have to focus on internal also. So there may be some. So in sangha of devotees, we have to also give importance to the internal part. And I get now the what you mean? Giving instruction of trying to correct to bring down. Mahaprabhu sent him to bring down or he himself? Mahaprabhu sent him to he sent him to Navadip. Okay, why he sent to Navadip? You know, he says that nobody will act in his presence, nobody will go against the tradition. He's very strict. He can take care of him. Yeah. So like that. So that principle has to be understood organizationally and devotionally. So they are two different aspects. Organizationally, you may deal with certain person, but devotionally. Yeah. But devotees were pleading for him. Okay, text number 29, an example is given. Read from.
As professional activities or business profits cannot help one's spiritual advancement, but are a source of material and enlightenment. The basic ritualistic ceremonies cannot help anyone who is not a devotee or a supreme personality of God.
So, giving an example that how things work. So, if one may engage in professional activities or business profits, but it will not help in spiritual advancement. Similarly, Vedic ceremonies cannot help anyone who is not a devotee. So, ultimately, this principle one will see in 11th canto also that generally we say, oh, social activities, philanthropic activities are condemned. But when a devotee does with the devotional mood, then they are not content. People who do it with just material thought, or then it is content. Even in 11th canto, the 8th section, Krishna tells that if a devotee does this, then it is glorious. So here also it's mentioned that one may do even what to speak of some social or philosophical, even one does Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. But it cannot help anyone who is not devotee also. So something may be directly Vedic ritual or something Vedic Anushthan, but if it is not done as a in a mood of devotee, in a mood of devotion, then it will not be done. What to speak of anything of this. But if a devotee does with devotional intent, with a mood of service to the Supreme Lord, then it has that is the perfection of that activity. Perfection of that activity is if it is done in devotion, with devotion to Supreme Lord. Okay. Prabhupada says making a show of religion without Krishna consciousness may make one popular in estimation of unintelligent men. But factually, such a materialistic display of spiritual advancement does not help one at all. It will not prevent one from missing the goal of life. The last 4 lines. So one cannot make a show of religion for popularity. Our goal should be spiritual advancement. So now 30 to 40 is the process of liberation for the householders. Okay, next 30th verse.
One who desires to conquer the mind must leave the company of his family and live in a solitary place, free from contaminated association. To maintain the body and soul together, he should take as much as he needs for the bare necessities of life.
So to conquer mind must leave the company of family and live in a solitary place. So householder after, like we have this Prabhuji on Anand. We have heard of Anand. Have you heard his questions? Any time? He will always ask some question in Radhanath Swami Maharaj's lecture. And most of the time the question is same, wordings are different. Yes, Prabhuji? Correct? He will always ask in this tone only. I am engrossed in material life, I am a householder, I am foreign, how can I come out and this and that, like that only, about that effect. So one actually powerful. Therefore it's mentioned that we should leave the family, so then person becomes again captivated or engrossed. So but in today's time, for a bhakti yogi, he has to just make sure that he can engage in more services in temple and engage in more practical, so that his time and energy is utilized there. So then he doesn't have much time and energy to focus on his family activities, which anyways when death comes we have to leave everything. So better leave it before or leave. Because when death will come, we'll have to ultimately leave it. So that is mentioned that one should go in a solitary place and beg to just maintain body and soul together. So Prabhupada is talking about sannyas because he leaves family and takes sannyas. Next, 21.
My dear king, in a sacred and holy place of pilgrimage, one should select a place in which to perform yoga. The place must be level and not too high or low. There one should sit very comfortably, being steady and equipoised, keeping his body straight, and thus begin chanting the Vedic word.
So what kind of asana we should have? That is mentioned in 31. A place which is not too high, not too low, sit comfortably, steady, equipoised, straight. And thus began chanting the Vedic mantra. then Prabhupada in the purport is talking about there is no difference between Omkar and Hare Krishna mantra. Prabhupada says the difference between chanting Omkar and chanting Hare Krishna mantra is that Hare Krishna mantra may be chanted without consideration of place or sitting arrangements recommended in Bhagavad Gita. There are so many rules and regulations for chanting Om, but for Hare Krishna mantra, Prabhupada is quoting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Niyamite Smaranena Kala. There is no niyam for chanting the Veds. So Hare Krishna mantra may be chanted by everyone. Okay, next text number 32 and 33. Pranayam and controlling mind. Please read.
While conversely starting at the peak of the law of learned yogi practices the breathing exercises for the technical means known as Purava, Kumbhaka and Restha. Controlling inhalation and exhalation and then stopping them both. In this way, the yogi restricts his mind from mental attachments and gives up all mental desires. As soon as the mind, being defeated by lustful desires, drifts toward feelings of self-gratification, the yogi should immediately bring it back and arrest it within the core of his heart.
So pranayam is there to concentrate, and one has to also control the mind. It may drift away towards feeling of self-gratification, but he should say no, not this time. To Prabhupada talk about yogina observation. Okay, text number 34.
When the yogi regularly practices in this way, in a short time his heart becomes fixed and free from disturbance, like a fire with flames or smoke.
So fire when is there, if there is smoke, that means what does it indicate? Huh? What does smoke or flames indicate? ठीक है, वो क्या बोल रहा है? There is fire. But when there is fire without smoke and there is fire with smoke, what does it indicate? Huh? Yeah, the burn, either there is not sufficient air or the material which is burning, it is not fully dry, or there is basically the whole process of combustion, what you call, that is not happening properly. Therefore, there is smoke. It is not getting converted fully into fire. So, smoke is an indication of contamination or not suitable burning. Correct, na? That's how it is. If there is like I think Radhika Babu used to tell in our classes. So he used to say, he used to give 4 examples. So when you burn petrol, when you burn coal, when you burn banana stem, so when you burn banana stem, what happens? Only smoke only, and it will not burn only. When you burn coal, what happens? Both are there and leaves a black smoke behind also. And when you burn petrol, what happens? Everything is consumed. So he used to give example. Prabhuji would tell us there are 4 kinds of air: banana like air, charcoal like air, or petrol like air. Things like that. Basically, how some don't burn, they are not, they hear but cannot hear anything. They hear but they understand limited, or they hear and they get the full knowledge. Things like that. So here smoke, like a fire without flame or smoke. When heart is free of contamination, then it is fire without, it will burn fully. There is no smoke or a copy. So like that. So when yogi regularly practices, in a short time his heart becomes fixed and free from disturbances. Okay, hope that I'm getting this. Okay, next.
When one's consciousness is uncontaminated by material lasting desires, it becomes calm and peaceful in all activities. For one, is situated in eternal peaceful life. Once situated on the platform, one does not return to materialistic activities.
So one comes to this uncontaminated platform, materialistic desires are gone, calm, peaceful, then he is situated in blissful. So why we don't experience bliss continuously? Because our heart is still getting absorbed or dragged to the material platform. If we are always, so chant Hare Krishna and be happy, stay high forever. So we can remain high forever when heart is free of contamination. So that is being mentioned here. Peaceful mind. Prabhupada says generally once elevated to transcendental platform of Brahma Shukha, transcendental bliss, one never comes down. But if one does not engage in devotional service, there is a chance of his returning to the material form. Okay, text number 36, Vanta C Sannyasi.
One who accepts the Shamash order and gives up the chief principles of materialistic activities, in which one indulges in the fruit of common life, namely religion, economic development, and self-gratification. One who first accepts Shamash but then returns to such materialistic activities is called a Bhaktas, or one who eats his own body, who is indeed a shameless person.
Okay. So Manta sees a vomit eater, one who eats his own vomit. So here very strong words are used. Why? Because one has given up. The flow verses is mentioning that he gives up with transcendental and understand that is all useless, materialistic. But then again he takes to that means something he gave up, vomit, and he is consuming that again. Can you imagine eating vomit? But that's what it's compared to.
So what about Bhagavad also eating
This case is different. There is learning for us, but we understand as Gaurav always mentions that dear Bharat is more advanced than King Bharat and Jada Bharat is more advanced than dear Bharat. So because his consciousness was getting more and more elevated, so we understand that it was a special intervention of Lord in this case. But in general, we are very. See, we may hear this, but how Prabhupada implemented this was to the observation. So Prabhupada, when people would leave sannyas, Prabhupada had given sannyas, Prabhupada would not say, "Arey, you will not quote this shloka." He will give him some service and you continue with your Krishna consciousness. So these are varnashram rules. So more focus is on become Prabhupada's mood was doesn't matter. Whatever, what is suitable for you, you be in that situation and practice Krishna consciousness. Doesn't matter.
I was looking at one of the partners from which purport I got. Yes, I think only in case of piano or any other processes, this Bhakta word is used, not in case of Bhakti. In Bhakti only that verse is quoted, which is quoted by Narad Muni, that even if what is fault or what is the loss. He was quoting this verse and this verse also. Never in case of devotee is quoted that he is compassion.
determination only to understand for a bhakti practitioner, for one's determination, not to superimpose on that. Like I was hearing one devotee's memories for Prabhupada. So he was sharing, in Prabhupada's time we never heard anyone being banned from life. So there is nothing like banned. It's like you may do according to institution, but then there will always be some way to engage him in service. So that is the mood which our acharyas have rightly understood and implemented. So that is how we have to also practice. Yes, sir.
So nowadays in ISKCON also we have seen some patterns like that. So how we see
Yes, yes. No, that's what I'm saying. See, when we see now things are very global in nature, and anything happens in one part, it becomes a big rumor in another part very fast. That earlier also used to happen. But the point is, certain things on, as I mentioned, institutionally you may have to give, like certain rules are very strict now. As an organization, from the government side and things like that. So if certain things happen, so then you need to enforce the law very strictly. Otherwise, the whole institution will itself will be under jeopardy because they will ban the correspondent. So you have to implement the law strictly. But there has to be some systems where at individual level, local level, then if the person is sincere, he can still be given opportunities without organization being seen as taking some. But still there can be things. So when Prabhupada was there, it was a little different. It was more like you fall, not fall, but you give up some sannyas vows or some brahmachari vows. But if you do something which is legally having implications also, then you have to take the appropriate measures. It's not with just institution laws. Institution laws may you can have still, you can say, okay, we give second chance, third chance, whatever. You give chance. But if something is against the government law, so then that has to be taken up seriously. Na? Otherwise, in ISKCON we face so many issues because some things happened which were not just institutionally problem, but they were according to the law they were problem. Then things have to be managed. But then अभी सब ऐसा नहीं हो जाना चाहिए कि अरे everyone is just blaming. There can be some devotees internally who may be helping that devotee, and then there will be a whole camp. They will go against that devotee. They are helping that devotee. They are helping that devotee. But ठीक है भाई, we already got some punishment and we are suffering. There can be still some devotee who can help him. Na? What's the problem? We have to see both sides. Some those who are at the receiving end, they feel, oh, we were affected party and things like that. So, but it has to be like sensitively dealt. The actual problem where happens is, जो affected party and जो one who did, so उनके बीच में जो लोग हैं ना, they create so much by blaming him against him and him against her, the Ruby parties. So then the problem happens. So we can have proper understanding, deal with it. Basically, we need a Vaishnava heart to deal with this kind of not just these principles. Okay, so which verse we are on? 36. Okay, 36.
Shomnasis, who first considered that the body is subject to death when it will be transformed into worms or ashes, but who again give reference to the body and glorify it as the self are to be considered the greatest rascals.
ठीक है, इसकी body will be turned into what it will be turned into? Stool how it will be turned? By vulture eating it. Worms, when buried, and ashes when burned. So but again is then it is like greatest rascal. Prabhupada is talking about who is rascal in the Bible. So Prabhupada is talking in terms of this people, sannyasis, so-called sannyasis, etc. etc. So Prabhupada is heavily condemning those who do scientific activities in the name of Daridra Narayan and things like that. They are apatrapa, asattama, Prabhupada says, shameless and fallen. So then abominable duties in different ashramas in 38 verses mentioned. Grihastasya kriyatyago pratatyago vatorapi tapasvino grama seva vikshvarindriya lolata.
It is available for a person living in the Grihastha to give up the regulating principles. For a brahmachari, not to follow the brahmachari laws while living under the care of the guru. For a Balapusta to live in the village and engage in so-called social activities. Or for a Shunnashi to be addicted to self-gratification. One who acts in this way is to be considered the lowest renegade. Such a pretender is bewildered by external energy of the Supreme Personality of God, and one should either reject him from any position or taking compassion upon him, teach him, if possible, to resume his original position.
So for different ashramas, what is the duties, abominable duties? So it was for brahmachari not to follow brahmachari laws is abominable. Vanaprastha to live in village and do social acts, that is abominable. And two, for sannyasi to be addicted to sense gratification, because he is supposed to be materially dead. According to sannyas social order, sannyasi means he is materially dead. बोलते हैं कि he does tarpan, tarpan कर लेता already. According to the Vedic sannyas na, when he takes sannyas, he does tarpan, means socially dead. If he still engages in sense gratification, then it is against that count. So that is mentioned. So in general, everyone should follow his varnashram duties. That is being mentioned. Prabhupada says such person should be shown compassion, and if one has sufficient strength, one should teach them to stop them from following the wrong path in life. Otherwise, one should reject them and pay them no attention. So that teach them or reject them. And among these, the sannyasis are particularly criticized. In text number 40.
The human form of body is made for understanding the self and the supreme self. The supreme personality of God and both form are considered supreme. If both of them can be understood, then one is purified by advanced knowledge. For what reason and for whom does a foolish, greedy person maintain the body of self-purification?
So he has mentioned that this human form is meant for understanding the self and supreme self. Even especially a sannyasi understands them by being purified. Why should he strive to maintain the body for self gratification? Prabhupada is also mentioning that this is especially why should one maintain the body? Especially for sannyasi, not only maintains the body by ordinary means, but does everything to maintain the body, including even eating meat and other abominable things. He must be a lampata or a greedy person, simply engaged in sense gratification. A sannyasi must specifically remove himself from the urges of tongue, belly, and genitals, which disturb one as long as one is not fully aware of the body is separate from the soul. So next, 41 to 46 is the analogy of a chariot. So what is the connection? So body which is engrossed in Maya is cause of bondage. But body which is engrossed in spiritual advancement is cause of liberation. So now we have heard that famous analogy of chariot. So that is from here. So the verses will tell. So how if one acts as per the direction of Guru and uses this body, chariot, then he can get spiritual upliftment. But if he acts whimsically, then he will get caught, or all the senses will take him astray. So that is mentioned. Next.
Transcendentalists who are advanced in knowledge compare the body, which is made by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to a chariot. The senses are like the horses, the mind, the master of the senses, is like the brains. The objects of the senses are the destinations. Intelligence is the chariot driver, and consciousness, which spreads throughout the body, is the cause of the bondage of this material world.
Okay, so there's different comparisons are given. And Prabhupada explaining the same thing which I told. How body can be cause of bondage and also cause of liberation. So Mahat Seva Mahat Dwaram Mahat or Tamo Dwaram Yoshitam Sangi Samush. That point. Body is like chariot which can be used to go anywhere, either to go up or to go down. So the advice of experienced transcendentalists therefore is that the body be fully engaged for achieving the ultimate goal of life, Swartha Gatim. And the real interest is to return back home, back to Godhead. Okay, next, 42.
The 10 kinds of air active within the body are compared to the spokes of the chariot's wheels, and the top and bottom of the wheel itself are called religion and irreligion. The living entity in the body was implied is the owner of the chariot. The Vedic mantra Pranava is the bow. The pure living entity himself is the arrow, and the target is the supreme being.
Okay, spokes of wheel are the 10 life airs. Wheels are religion and irreligion. Passenger is conditioned soul. Now there is this bow is referred to as Omkar. Arrow is the pure soul. Bow. तो bow पे arrow चढ़ा दिया. And किसको target बनाना है? Supreme Lord. So somebody will say, where piercing the arrow into the Supreme Lord. What kind of anger is this? So Prabhupada mentioned in the purport. Somebody will argue like this. Say, quoting Vishwanath Prabhupada says, bow and arrow are used in this verse. One might argue that Supreme Lord and Supreme and the living entity have been enemies. However, although the Supreme Personality of Godhead may become so-called enemy of the living being, this is his chivalrous pleasure. For example, Lord fought with Bhishma, and when Bhishma pierced the Lord's body on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, this was a kind of humor or relationship of which they are well. So Prabhupada is equating with that. And in the end, Prabhupada says, similarly, if with the arrow of chanting the holy name of the Lord, one pierces Lord Vishnu's lotus feet, by dint of performing this heroic activity of devotional service, one receives the benefit of returning home back to Godhead. Okay, so arrow is the chanting and one is piercing the lotus feet to that arrow. Nice meditation for performing this heroic activity and return home.
Should
Kirtan band.
And for avoidance and for relationship. And overall memory service, opening heart, and people welcoming.
Oh. Yes. Sachidanand Maharaj made an acronym on this. So like that. Okay. Next verse. And 43.
In the conscious stage, one's conceptions of life are sometimes polluted by passion and impulse, which are exhibited by attachment, hostility, greed, lamentation, illusion, fear, madness, false prestige, insults, fault finding, deception, envy, intolerance, passion, bewilderment, anger, and sleep. All of these are enemies. Sometimes one's conceptions are also polluted by goodness.
So there is a sword to destroy the enemies. And enemies to be conquered to progress towards the target. So these are the enemies: attachment, greed, lamentation, illusion, fear, madness, etc. They are mentioned. Prabhupada says to progress towards the target of Vishnu, which is our real self-interest, one must become very powerful in conquering these various hindrances or enemies. In other words, one should not be attached to being a good man or a bad man in this material world. Not to be a good man or bad man in this material world, one has to focus on conquering these enemies. Again, Prabhupada is saying the same thing in the end also. In this regard, one must be very bold so that he can conquer these enemies of Krishna consciousness. Not caring for the good and bad of this material world. One must boldly propagate Krishna consciousness. Good or bad of this material world. People will say, "Hey, you are acting like this," or people will praise you. Both are not of consequence to a devotee. His focus is to conquer the enemies of Krishna consciousness. Okay, next.
So you told when people are saying, sometimes praising or sometimes blaspheming, but when other devotees, they are saying something bad about someone.
Yeah.
So should we consider doing something?
Yeah, we should consider because they are devotees. So we should consider what is in my action or what is in my, which is causing trouble or causing pain or making them feel bad. And if by contemplation one can find, one should rectify. And if one feels there is no problem, then he can ask that devotee where is the problem. And if both don't work, then just humbly try to continue. There can be differences of opinion also sometimes on how to do some service. So in that aspect, if one has to take the lower stand, we can take lower stand also. Except sometimes for higher goal.
We should not be on the brain list, but we should not be attached to become good in other eyes. Is it?
We should obviously good means for a devotee, good is when devotees and Guru and Krishna are pleased. That's what he's aiming for. So that we should try. And if, as you say, devotees, if they are feeling, then we can. Please, we want to please Krishna. We want to be good in Krishna's eyes. What do you mean by being good in Krishna? By being good in his devotees or Guru's eyes. So we should not feel that I am good, but I am aspiring to please and serve. So that is our movement. Okay, next.
Government one has to accept the different world with its different parts and paraphernalia, which are not fully under one's control. One must have the lower state of his superiors, namely his spiritual master and the spiritual master's predecessors. By their mercy, one can sharpen the sword of knowledge, and with the power of the supreme personality of God's mercy, one must then conquer the enemies mentioned above. In this way, the devotee should be able to merge into his own concept of this, and then he may give up his body and resume his spiritual activity.
So what is the sword to destroy the enemies? Knowledge sharpened by service to Guru and Parampara and the Lord's mercy. And thus one is attaining spiritual bliss and gives up his body, charity. So knowledge which is sharpened by service to Guru and Parampara, not just some theoretical knowledge. We sharpen this knowledge by service. Prabhupada is quoting Neva, Nirteham Atyam Sulabham Sudabham Pravam Sudabham Guru Karnava Maya Anupulena Nabhasviteham Puman Bhavatam Natare Saatma. So this is also popular famous verse. Guru Karnadhar. For Guru is the captain. So one must use all these facilities to cross over the ocean of license. Since the spiritual master is captain, one must serve the spiritual master very sincerely, so that by his mercy one will be able to get the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Again, Prabhupada says, if one seriously desires to return back to Godhead, one must therefore become strong enough by pleasing the spiritual master. For thus one gets the weapon with which to conquer the enemy, and one also gets the grace of Krishna. Simply getting the weapon of Jnana is insufficient. One must sharpen the weapon by serving the spiritual master and adhering to his instructions. Then the candidate will get the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Talks about how strength is received from Balram. There is a nice purport on how Balram is the source of strength. Prabhupada says, Achyuta Bala, Jnanisham, the word, the sword of knowledge is given by Krishna. This is the second last paragraph. And when one serves the Guru and Krishna, in order to hold the sword of Krishna's instruction, Balram gives the strength. Balaram is Nityananda, Brajendra Nandan Yei Sachisuta Haidasi, Balaram Haidari. The Balaram comes with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and both of them are so merciful that in this age of Kali, one may very easily take shelter of the lotus feet. Krishna's instructions are there, but to hold those instructions, we need the strength which comes from Balram. So, thus one should accept the sword of knowledge from Krishna and be strong with the mercy of Balram. We are therefore worshipping Krishna, Balram and Vrindavan. Naya Mahatma Balavindeya Guru. Balram. Prabhupada says we must therefore conquer the enemies of Krishna consciousness with the strength received from Balram. Vitai. Balram. So he is quoting so many things about Balram. The Guru Tattva. Balram ji is representing the Guru Tattva. 46.
Otherwise, if one does not take shelter of Achyuta and Baladev, then the senses acting as the horses and the intelligence acting as the driver, both being prone to natural contradiction, ineffectively bring the body, which acts the chariot, to the path of self-realization. When one is thus attracted again by the rocks and Vishaya, eating, sleeping and mating, the horses and chariot driver are thrown into the blinding dark well of material existence, and one is again put into a dangerous and extremely fearful situation of repeated birth and death.
Okay, so we will fall back again if it takes to the wrong path. What is the wrong path? Prabhupada also mentions it, but without the protection of Gaur Nidhai, Krishna and Balram, one cannot get out of the dark well of ignorance in material existence. This is indicated here by the word nochit, which means one will always remain in dark well of material existence. The living entity must get strength from Nidhai Gaur or Krishna Balram. Without the mercy of Nidhai Gaur, there is no way to come out of the dark well of ignorance. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Prabodho Bodhyo Chitto Chitto Sandho. In that verse also. The wrong path is not taking shelter of Achyut and Baldev. The soul comes to the path of sense improvement. That is mentioned. So in the next section from 47 to 56, the paths of pravritti and nivritti are mentioned. If enjoyment in the world is a wrong path that binds one to material existence, why is it prescribed in scriptures? This in scripture also there is prescription of following this path. No? So different prescriptions are given according to one's qualification. By the path of pravritti, one remains a householder. By path of nivritti, one becomes a sannyasi. Nivritti marg and pravritti marg. So this is explained in the next 10 verses from 47 to 56.
According to the
Yes.
According to the Vedas, there are two kinds of activities, pravritti and nivritti. Pravritti activities involve raising oneself from a lower to a higher condition of materialistic life, whereas nivritti means the cessation of material desire. Through pravritti activities, one suffers from material entanglement, but by nivritti activities, one is purified and becomes fit to enjoy eternal blissful life.
Okay, pravritti marg mein one wants to materially uplift himself. That is pravritti marg. Nivritti is giving up. So Prabhupada is saying that it makes a nice point. One who takes to devotional service even with some material motives is considered pious. And because he has come to Krishna, he will gradually come to stage of Prabhupada gives example of Dhruv Maharaj. Swami Kritartha Asmi Varam Naya. Next.
The ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices known as Opnatra Yajna, Dasya Yajna, Durmasya Yajna, Chaturmasya Yajna, Pashu Yajna, and Soma Yajna are all symptomized by the killing of animals and burning of many valuables, especially food grains, all for the fulfillment of material desires and the creation of anxiety. Performing such sacrifices, worshipping Vaishraveda, and performing the ceremony of Baliharana, which all supposedly constitute the goal of life, as well as constructing temples for demigods, building resting houses and gardens, digging wells for the distribution of water, establishing booths for the distribution of food, and performing activities for public welfare. These all are symptomized by attachment to material desire.
They are all symptomized by attachment to material desires. So here people do this with a, why people do? I will get pious credits or I will go to heaven and enjoy better. So if it's done with that mood, symptomized by attachment to material desire, then it is of no advantage. But there
Gains his life by the grace of his parents through the process of purification. Says Baba. There are also other processes of purification until the end of life, when the funeral ceremony is performed. Thus, in due course of qualified Brahmana becomes interested in materialistic activities and sacrifices, but he offers the sensual sacrifices in full of knowledge into the working senses, which are illuminated by the fire of knowledge.
Prabhupada is saying now in this verse it is explained that one who has perfect Brahmanical knowledge rejects the process of elevation to higher planets and accepts Nivritti Maha. In other words, he prepares himself to go back home, back to God. So one is going Brahmanical culture or twice born means that he doesn't want to increase or elongate his stay in this world. He wants to actually give up Nivritti Maha. So that Pravritti Maha not shifting to Nivritti Maha. So path of detachment is mentioned from 53 to 55.
The mind is always agitated by waves of acceptance and rejection. Therefore, all the activities of the senses should be offered into the mind, which should be offered into one's words. Then one's words should be offered into the aggregate of all efforts, which should be offered into the concise strong Omkara. Omkara should be offered into the point Bindu into the vibration of sound, and that vibration into the life. Then the living entity, which all that remains, should be placed in Brahman, the Supreme. This is the process of settlement.
So how he gradually is from the lower nature is offering it to higher.
Also fire, the sun, the day, the end of the day, the bright fortnight, the full moon, and the passing of the sun in the north, along with their presiding demigods. When he enters Brahmaloko, he enjoys life for many millions of years, and finally his material designation comes to an end. He then comes to a certain designation from which he attains the causal designation, replacing all previous states. Upon the annihilation of this causal state, he attains his pure state, in which he identifies with the super soul. In this way, the living entity becomes transcendental.
So he is elevating himself beyond this heavenly pleasures. Fire to sun and finally to Brahmaloka. So this is Nivritti Maha that is mentioned. Further 55.
This gradual process of elevation for self-realization is meant for those who are truly aware of the absolute truth. After repeated birth on this path, which is known as Devayana, one attains these consecutive stages. One who is completely free from all material desires, being situated in himself, need not traverse the path of repeated birth and death.
So Devayana and Pitrayana. So in brief, Krishna also talked about in 8 chapters of the Gita. So here also there are so many material arrangements for this ascending. But Krishna consciousness of bhakti is beyond any material arrangements. It is irrespective of just one needs to take shelter. That is the only thing required. And if this is the conclusion is mentioned.
Even though situated in material body, one who is fully aware of the paths known as Vitriyana and Devayana, and who thus opens his eyes in terms of Vedic knowledge, is never bewildered in this material world.
Okay, so one has to understand these two parts and does not get bewildered, and then he can ascend himself. So that is mentioned. So we end here, and there was one more section, two more sections. Huh? Largest chapter. think नहीं अभी वो आएगा ना वो पता नहीं वर्ष में पता बट पर्सोनिफाइड डेटा सेक्शन आएगा 1 2 चैप्टर में थोड़ा मेरे को तो difficult